Thank you, Srikanth, for the nice introduction. It's a privilege, indeed a privilege, and I should thank Bhaskaran and Rajshekhar for giving me this opportunity. My own doubts of how competent I am in giving this talk, because data analytics is something which I not worked much. Though I had touched up as my thesis, I did do statistical modeling and econometrics. But data analytics and machine learning is too vast a topic. And in addition to that, the developments in Indian Railways are just maturing and coming on to being implemented, and Chris is just testing the waters. So that's why I planned to give you a slightly more holistic kind of overview kind of. And if there are any questions, you can ask me. And then, so I'll just go ahead with my presentation. Okay. Well, it is data analytics. I prefer data analytics to machine learning, artificial intelligence term, because that's where we are exactly, and we are moving towards all that machine learning and other things. And then I picked up globally applications in railway domain. What are all the different kind of applications that are running? Current state of railway systems, where it is, and sources of data in IR, and then I tried to give some few case studies, not exactly some which are developed, some which are actually proposed kind of a thing. Okay. And the topic, if you see, we are combining railway and non-railway data. That's a very important part of this one. We in Indian Railways think that we are generating huge data of this one, and then it has a huge value. But unless we contextualize the data to a passenger and to a system of movement, to a body pair, and in relation to competition, either in freight or passenger, we are nowhere. So the data we are doing is like, let us say, a whole human being is there and you're only feeding a hand, or a hand is only being fed through some mechanism. But the rest of the body, we have to build up. If you don't build up and do exercise to one hand, we're not going to the system. So that's the more important point that I want to drive to the audience. It is obvious, and it has been discussed threadbare. This one, it is explosive growth of data, along with associated with as Mosley was already stated, in terms of capacity increase of storage, processing, and then communication increase. And in addition, there is, as usual, the demand from the public and the customers is very high. The reduced reaction times they're expecting more transparent this one, and the targeted responses. And at the end of it, once we analyze most data, we can link at target and start targeted actions. Then we can also improve the employee productivity and thus improve the profitability of the whole organization. So in general, as per large number of studies, the bang for the buck in terms of return for investment would be highest in this once we apply data analytics. In general, this is how we can look at data analytics, data collection as a mechanism. We have a realistic picture of this one, globe, or whatever is operations is collected, and data is processed, and then we do a lot of analysis, which is exploratory data analysis, which is basically in terms of to understand what is it it tells, what does it tell, and how does it make sense. So in the raw data analysis, you look at what is called the descriptive statistics. You do the inferential statistics. Descriptive statistics means median or average, and then some visualization. How do the graphs look at, scatter plots look at, how do our diagrams look like, so that we try to bring out various linkages between different variables, different data sets, so that once those associations are clear, then we can also think of what to predict, what to look at, and which is more relevant variables. Unless we know these associations, we'll have problems, which I'll come back. Then these models and algorithms is what is the core of the current operations is, in terms of what we call as the machine intelligence, deep learning is the core of all this. All these outputs are then put in a communicatable form, and then then the decisions are made, or information is given for individuals to take his decisions. So this is the basic outline of the data science process. And then there is various jargon which has come. I thought I'd just have a quick run through the various jargon that are available. Big data, there's no numbers that are attached to it, but it is large volumes of data which is going into terabytes or exabytes or whatever it is, petabytes. And then, so that is what, in the sense of, there's a huge set of data. A video comes and then we want to find out X person in that video. Then finding out that X person at an instant of, let us say, in a gap of 5 minutes out of 24 hours, so the content is very low, but then density is very low. But then that's what is the characteristics of this big data is. That's how we need much more stronger analytical processing tools. Then cloud computing, most of you know, it is not, it is a network-based system where your computing resources are scalable and they're provided as a service, so that as data explodes, then your resources can be placed. They're not at one source, they're at multiple sources, and so there's the linkages, interlinkages. So all this makes a big, brings in a big complexity into the whole of database management and communications and all that. But there are a lot of technologies which are developed, which I'm not touching, both in Hadoop loops or Google file systems and all those things. But this is all part of the data analytics framework right now. In addition, we are talking of artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is a broad-based term where machines tend to learn, mimic human problem solving, this one. And that itself is quite evolving, in the sense of what was considered artificial intelligence earlier might not be so, because we get used to it. Right now, Google Maps giving us a route data, we may not treat it as it might be exciting much earlier, but it may not be exciting now. So that's how it is evolving, but basic tendency to solve the problems. And then machine learning is algorithms which learn by themselves so that they make better decisions. So, so machine learning is inbuilt as an inbuilt component of huge training data sets, and then the predictive data set, and then errors are predicted, and then there is a loop which it learns itself and then improves its prediction. When extracting higher order data from, let us say, machine learning is, let us say, identifying a cat. That itself is a huge higher order data. I'm not denying that. Or to tell whether a passenger will travel or not. But deep learning involves, let us say, autonomous driving vehicle where it looks at the road and then decides when to brake, when to move, how to avoid a dog on the street or all that. So that is, it's much more, in the sense of more data intensive, more complex than, let us say, a simple machine learning algorithm. Okay, but these are all subsets of one another. Artificial intelligence encompasses machine learning. Machine learning more or less encompasses deep learning. And this is how the order flows. Now, I also just wanted to introduce you to various techniques that are undergoing behind this data analytics. These are mostly statistical techniques which have evolved over a period. At least some of the techniques are maybe as old as 100, 200 years. And some of them are very recent, but not 50 years. So one is the linear regression, where you try to find out a correlation between two variables, dependent and independent. Dependent variable, if it is linear in terms of, let us say, if I buy 1 kilo of rice, then it is 5 rupees. And if I buy 2 kilos of rice, then it is 10 rupees. That linearity is there. It need not be linear in one specific domain, but it can be, as long as both the variables, even if their logarithms are linear or they're moving exponentially, so you take logarithms, then they become linear. So the variables themselves need not be linear. X is equal to y, y is equal to e plus x, e power y, x can be linear once we take logarithm, logs. So because log y becomes x, so that's how it becomes a linear variable. Next is a nonlinear kind of methods where let us say I want to go from a place A to B. I want to use a car, cycle, or a train. That is something which is completely nonlinear. There is no continuity in that. So that is what is called a discrete choice variable, where it is also called broadly logistics regression. But logistic regression is only one type of it. But many people call it as logistic regression. These are very useful in terms of while taking decisions in terms of whether let us say digits 0, 1, 2, 3, or you are using a marketing strategy, and a person comes into the marketing, buys the product or not buy the product. There is nothing like 0.5 buying of a product or something like that, which is that becomes a linear variable. But then association between variables, how are they associated, is something which is very critical both in business intelligence, and I've decided to go by Indigo. So they don't give food. But whether I take my food, or whether I order a particular food, or whether I order in the flight, or those are all that gets associated with the flight. So for a large volume of data, if I get a passenger behavior and then find out how much food by Indigo passengers, then these associations will let us know will buy food inside the flight. What is their consumption pattern? Cluster analysis and classification is another huge applications, which is suppose you have a set of people on which you have variables. Let us say a set of travelers, their age, their all those things, and their travel choice. Group them as per their travel choice, or group them so that similar people can come together. That's what the cluster analysis is. And the classification is also similar, but it is a supervised context learning case, and cluster analysis is a non-supervised discipline. Then data fusion, data integration is nothing but bringing across different sources of data together, and then looking at data in a different in an integrated manner. Neural networks is actually a buzzword of late. It is nothing but a statistical which is mimicking like what our neurons do, pass on data from one source to another, and between different nodes. So that's how the neural networks work. Of course, there's a complex topic where neural networks, there's a forward many different areas. It is highly applied now, and it's a lot of part of machine learning and deep learning also. Then, of course, optimization processes, pattern recognition, where different patterns, let us say images have come, and what are the patterns that are available, what crops are there, cotton is put, or all that is a part of pattern recognition. Then predictive modeling is one important part of the whole story of machine learning and deep learning. In the sense, ultimately, I want to predict how a particular event would happen, or a thing would happen. For example, I have various parameters of, let us say, your signaling gear, and then say predict whether it will work or it will fail after, let us say, fail, or if it fails, when it will fail. So these kind of predictive learning models are inherent core of this one, especially compared to previous statistical models, where inference is important, associations between variables is more important. This machine learning and all this current data analytics emphasize on prediction, whether a person will travel or not, given his travel characteristics. That's what it is. Then the sentiment analysis is more of language processing. This one where different Twitter messages or Facebook messages, what are they like, and how much is it angry or neutral or pleasant, all those categories of data analysis. And then time series analysis is a huge data by itself. It is an ocean by itself, in terms of we have, let us say, stock market movements, or train movements at the various points of time, and there is a perturbance, and then how does it affect? All this is part of a time series analysis. So all these tools and techniques are part of what is called your current data analytics or machine learning algorithms. But of course, there are major issues of concern in terms of one is privacy. Suppose a passenger comes to me and gives data, then how should I keep it private? What is the data that I should not reveal? I can't go and say that Ravi Babu travels from this place to this place every time. That's unfair and that's not intruding into my own privacy. But we can always say that 1,000 people travel from X to Y. That is not privacy. So how do you aggregate data? How do you bring out all that? That's a major concern, and unfortunately, for many of the data, in government data, both in many sectors, even in rural development, or you can look at, if you want to find person X villager's assets in a village, X person's assets, if you go to rural development, there's a database, you can find that out. That is not privacy. So that's how we should be concerned. And of course, security is again a big thing. Other day we saw Big Bazaar data is being sold in what is that black in the black. So dark world. That's what I think. Yeah, that's the right word. So that security breaches, especially people trust us and give data, and then we have to keep them as cities. Then intellectual ownership, who owns it, who uses it, who gets paid for it, is again a big question which we need to look at it. For example, IRCTC books the data for us. Is it IRCTC data or is it stored in CRIS servers? Is it CRIS data or is it railway data? And who somebody use it, is authorized to use it, and who is not authorized to use it? Who is only working as an agent for storage? All this is important concerns. This I'm raising basically because as executives, you would be concerned about all these issues. For example, in CRIS, when we were approached for sharing of data, then we said it is railway data, we are only custodians. So you should take railway permission and we'll give it to you. That is the standard refrain that we used to take. But so all the, for example, even in SNT, we have large sets of data and from the data loggers or whatever it is. Then liability in case of there's a failure or there is some decisions which are taken bad, then who is liable for those decisions for the data that is there? If the data is bad decision is due to data corruption, then who becomes liable is also an important thing. Okay, I just wanted to stop it in the middle with a small joke. So ultimately, what I'm saying is all data or everything all said and done, it is humans which are important. Here we see a man predicting to a woman, saying that on the day 0 you have one husband, 0 husband, and next day you get married, you have one husband. So if you extrapolate like that, in the next 2-3 months, you need to order around 4 dozen cakes at a bulk rate on the cake. This is what exactly happens when we blindly follow. This could be a joke and everybody could laugh away quite easily, and it could appear foolish also. But this is exactly what happens when we follow the machine learning outputs blindly. And this does happen at many places. For example,
I request Babu, please speed up. I think.
How much more time I have?
About 2-3 minutes maximum.
Yeah, you gave me 25 minutes. It's over, huh?
It is already 23 minutes over. So.
Okay.
Take 5 minutes. Take 5 minutes, sir.
Yeah. I'm sorry. So there is this railway domain, various applications that I have reviewed. We can look at it. Maintenance is all the three and the vehicle. So here we have different types of maintenance. This is just to give you a fair view of various works that is done across the world. This is summarized from a source where we can go for predictive maintenance or condition-based maintenance or a corrective maintenance. And we have various railway operations, which are delay analysis and then track usage. In fact, IIT Mumbai has developed a good train simulator, which uses some of these techniques. Then accidents, analyzing accidents as event cause and as a global level in terms of correlating various sets of data. All these works are being done. Even for the demand forecasting, different sources of data, which is both structured, unstructured, and semi-structured from various data sources like these softwares are there. And then external data relevant to IR. This is most important, which I thought is we should be building up this data time, the weather data, the economic demographic data, so that if a particular signaling gear fails, is it because of the weather or is it because of non-maintenance? That if you want to maintain, then you should find out water levels, you should find out rains, you should find out temperatures, all that is there. Then as a typical demand modeling, I should know the toll data so that how many trucks are going, what goods are going and all that. Okay, these are three case studies that I projected. One is the passenger demand, another is the freight demand, third is the station operations. So passenger demand, what is exactly, right now we are doing manually looking at waiting lists and then saying that yes, we need so many coaches, so that coaches and all that. But can a algorithm develop that? That is what exactly Chris is doing now, building in intelligence. Right now we have been doing it in a static data warehouse complex. So that the data warehouse is being extended through somewhat machine learning algorithms using some packages. Then freight also the same thing, is static one. But future we should look at more predictive algorithms applying various this one. Except especially demand for a particular transit time is there. We have transit time analysis, and can we say yes, we deliver within so many hours, and you give us premium of 10 rupees? And is it economical if I promise the deliver and stop other trains and run those trains? That's what our profitability should be telling us. So this is freight demand side. And freight demand also we need a lot of external data. Ultimately, I'm coming to an important part in integration of where we exactly discussed in the first session of edge computing, where centralized databases, even all your SNT data, let us say, is more in start at the station division headquarters than at the station complexes, though there is a computer provided there, but most of it is saved there. But can we throw some analytics integrating all station related operations, bringing in the track data, bringing in the OHE data? That is something which we should be thinking about, and then bring the intelligence, develop intelligence on that, so that we'll get that flavor and all that. Of course, we can do that analysis and bring in intelligence also, but especially safety related, the lesser the time delay, it is better it is. And if we can standardize it, this one, we can do that. And in that direction, actually, as CSO, I requested board to permit using electronic interlocking data for easing the station master's work. Station master currently maintains around 40 different forms of different failures, different authorities, different this one. And a EA system should be able to generate that. So board has in fact permitted South Central Railway on a trial basis. But by then I moved out of CSO. It is not that I'm not talking about I in the sense it is applicable to everybody. Somebody takes it as a passion project and he goes out, and somebody following up likes it, he takes it. So board has permitted SCR, but there is a large number of signaling officers here. If you pick up any of this, it will be wonderful direction of building up a business intelligence based on at a station level, and it will quite revolutionize the work. It can replicate all the books, build up train data, and also help the station master improve operations, because any 1 second saved in train operations will improve. Thank you. Sorry for time breach. Any question answers? You are welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi Babu. What an excellent presentation you have made. And I think half an hour is too short a time for the work that you have done. And as a takeaway of your presentation, I think some of the case studies that you have done, maybe please send to the board through this webinar report, because there is a wealth of experience that you have, and it will definitely add. See how nicely you have brought out the various techniques of the data analytics and its actual application in Indian Railways. And you have also given a flavor of how it can be used for SNT maintenance. Really excellent presentation. As was, if there are any questions,
I hope because you are my friend, you are not saying that.
No, I see. As a chairperson, I have no partialities. So, anyway,
any questions on chat box? It is there.
Audience would like to ask Mr. Babu.
Sir, two questions are there, sir.
Yeah.
Sir,
One
it is
is any
one.
AI has been in timetabling. Well, actually, I have a very limited information. Let me honestly say my limitations. It's a huge world, and so I'm just a small frog in some well, and then looking at some data. So, and then now that I have interacted with IIT team and worked with them for some time. So, IIT Bombay has built a timetable train simulator timetable. This one. It has also worked with South Central Railway data. So there they are doing what is called geo-based, which is, and so they come out with some findings, which where I was discussing with some board officers around accelerating 2000 trains or something like that, at least by half an hour or something like that. So that is actually a simulator, which is not a tool per se, but that can be used because it now gives you a rich data. It can be used. Even our COA data can be used. Country we have built. Those examples I'm not able to recollect immediately, but I can tell you a little later. There are a lot of contexts in European and American railroad contexts that they were built, but I cannot recollect them offhand. I can send references if you want.
Sir, related to timetabling, I would like to add, sir, that in European system or US system, we are having this train management system or central traffic controller, where they're collecting all the data used for timetabling. The algorithm, machine learning algorithm based, but attributes and making the timetabling and suppose any disruption due to failure happens or any accident happens, so that controller can trains.
Yeah, it's correct. And the IIT system is equally competent, and it's look at the IIT system. They are very friendly, and it is done on an open source format, so we will not be tied up with any vendors or anything. And it does a wonderful job. And if anybody wants it, I can.
Yes.
Okay.
One more question is there, that is from Mr. Sandeep. Is there any success story wherein machine learning technology has been used for taking safety critical decisions to only area of railway functioning or operations?
No. I think abroad, outside, a lot of examples are there. Case studies, literature references, where you can further refer, or if you want, we can compile later also. Patients are being taken. So instead of going for a periodic maintenance, they are going for a predictive maintenance, condition-based maintenance. So once data is put in, not go for every 3 months or every 6 months kind of maintenance. So safety critical practices are being followed. Yes. We can
thank
look
you,
at the
Mr. Ravi
examples.
Babu.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I
Yeah.
think the questions would be many on this subject. You can contact Mr. Ravi Babu on his email.